Hello, we're talking films today because in the space of a week I've seen three new releases, which is not like me. I don't tend to see new releases like as they come out, like one after another. Like I'll occasionally like see a film as it comes out, but to see three within the space of a week, it's very unlike me. I love going to the cinema so much. Support your independent cinemas. And I feel so lucky that I got to go to see two films with very dear friends, and they were both really good. Also, sorry about the lighting. It's just after 2:15 in the afternoon, but the light has left my flat already because that's what living in Scotland is like when it starts to get into autumn and winter. It just becomes exceedingly grey. And yeah, the flat is pretty much dark now, and it'll be dark outside by about 4 o'clock. So sorry about that. But the three films I saw were Frankenstein, Bugonia, and Die My Love. I saw Frankenstein. I waited until that was streaming and I watched that at home. And I honestly had like really high expectations for it because although I haven't read the novel, I know the story well. I love anything Gothic. I know that it was written during the Romantic era, and I love the Romantic era for art so much. And so yeah, the cast sounded great. Like I was really excited for it, and I was honestly disappointed. I've seen a lot of love for this film online, and like I get it, I do. But for me personally, I found it quite disappointing, and it was mostly because of how it looked. I don't think if you're making a gothic film, I don't think you should be doing a digital film. I think it should be filmed on film because it looked too glossy, too crisp. The lighting was super flat, and I think it really took me out of it. I felt like I was really like at a distance, like at a remove from the story, and it did bug me the whole time I was watching it. And as good as the story is, and it is good, and as good as the performances were, because they were, I just couldn't see past that the entire time. So I think my main criticism of Frankenstein is really how it was filmed, because the set design, absolutely stunning. The costume and hair makeup, beautiful, apart from the creature. I did not like the design of Guillermo del Toro's creature. And I understand that it's like a new take on it, and to have like his own design of the creature and not just have it be the kind of image that we have in like the public imagination of what Frankenstein's monster looks like. I like that he did his own thing, but I didn't really vibe with the way that it came out, apart from towards the end when he's a bit more messed up and stuff. Then I thought, yeah, okay, I believe this monster, but I didn't really like his design. So the story, I feel like most people know. It's a book I've always wanted to read, but for some reason just haven't gotten around to. And like I will read it hopefully at some point. But I like that it was clearly Guillermo del Toro's own take on the story, because to me, as much as it does follow the kind of plot lines of the story that we know, because it's a very, very famous story, it didn't feel Gothic to me in narrative. It felt Gothic in the way that it looked, like the design of everything felt very Gothic, but the narrative didn't feel so Gothic to me because it was missing like one element that I find I enjoy the most in Gothic work, and to me is like really important in it. And that's ambiguity. Like it needs to have a moral grayness for me to really consider it to be Gothic. I think that that's really important. And this version of Frankenstein reads and feels very much like a cautionary tale, which I think is also like a great take on it. I think it is a good tale that is like, it works well to be like cautionary, and it feels like a very much almost like a moralistic fabular take on the story, of, creating something and shirking your responsibility for what you've created. And I feel like that story was told brilliantly, even though it's not what I expected and it's not what I necessarily wanted. I think it came across beautifully. I think that the gravitas and like the ego of Oscar Isaac's character was so great. Like, you could tell that for him it was all about achievement and making something and like having his name known and like being like a great mind in the scientific world and things. And obviously he achieves this, like he does it, he creates his creature. And then you see the clashing of, okay, I've achieved this thing, but the emptiness that follows, like now that I've like achieved what I wanted to do, I created it, I've made it, he's here, it feels like everything is empty and hollow for him afterwards. He doesn't see that as, okay, so the next step is to, bond with my creature and teach it. And I think it's just such a beautiful example of responsibility that we have, and like just not taking it on. And I think it's really, really like prevalent in today, when you have these like great technological minds creating AI and creating all these things, and then it's growing arms and legs and there's not enough regulations, and it's just like sprawling out there, and it's causing pollution, devastation. It's like it's ending up being an incredibly violent thing in some places. And these great minds that have created it seem to just be interested in creating something big, in creating something that will have their name known, and something that everybody sees and is in awe of. But they're not so interested in, regulating it, teaching it, helping to keep people safe from it and for it to be used for the greater good. And I see that the parallel in Frankenstein just really jumped out to me. And I love that as soon as Elizabeth Mia Goth's character sees the creature, there is the nurturing presence, like immediately. And I think it speaks a lot to like parenting dynamic, where, all the burden oftentimes falls on the mother figure. And a lot of the time, fathers don't pull their weight when it comes to parenting, and often just want to be known as like being a father figure rather than actually doing the work. And you see that the creature is curious and wants to know about the world. And why would you not want to nurture that? Why would you not see that in front of you and want to see through the creature's eyes, like the world for the first time, and introduce him to everything? Yeah, I think that the softness that Mia Goth's character brings to the film is like really, really beautiful. And yeah, I think it's just the romantic era that the novel was written in really comes through, because you have this relationship and connection to nature becomes really important, and curiosity. And also in the romantic era, there was a turn inwards that was about emotions and kind of like heart over mind and feeling. And you see this in the creature so well. I feel like Jacob Elordi's ability to just have this like awe and wonder at the world around him and just be learning and discovering and feeling things was just so beautiful, and like easily evoked a lot of sympathy for his character. Really, really gorgeous. But yeah, I just feel like I wanted it to feel more gothic. I wanted it to have that ambiguity. I wanted it to look a certain way, and it didn't. And I really don't like the Netflixification of how film and TV looks now. I don't like the crispness, the flatness, the glossiness. I don't like that it feels like you are like far removed from what's going on. Like, I think that we've we're losing something in that. There's an art that's being lost there. And I think that the stills that were used for promotion for this film, you know, look so stunning, but that is not what the experience of watching the film was like at all. And I think that's maybe why my expectations were really high and it didn't quite hit. And for that reason, I'm glad I just saw it at home and didn't see it in the cinema. But yeah, the next new release that I saw was Bugonia, and I did see that in the cinema. So this is Yorgos Lanthimos' latest film, and it felt very him. I saw the 35mm screening at my favourite cinema, Glasgow Film Theatre, and it was really, really good. I knew that I would like it going in because I love his work. I feel like, you know, everybody does. He's a very popular director, and he's created a body of work that's very stylistically his, and it's very interesting to look at. And yeah, I get a lot from watching his film. And Bugonia, I have not seen the Korean film that it is an adaptation of, but it is also an adaptation. All three of these films that I've seen in the past week have been adaptations, which I think is a conversation worth having as well. But yeah, Bugonia I think it's adapted from a film called Save the Green Planet, I think it's called. And while I haven't seen it, I would be interested in seeing it after watching Bugonia. And everyone's praise for this film seems to be for Emma Stone, and I love her. I think she's great. I do think that she's, you know, one of my generation's best actors. I think that she is one of the best that we have just now. But for me, I think Jesse Plemons was the better performance in this film. He's such an interesting actor with interesting roles, and I feel like he does something quite similar a lot of the time. Like, he plays a really a weird character. Like, he plays a freak quite often, and he's so good at it. Like, he's really good at being unnerving. I would love to see him do like more work that's maybe slightly out of that box. I actually couldn't help when I was watching it just thinking, oh, I would love to see them play the opposite roles. So the story is that two men, they're cousins, kidnap the CEO of like this big biomedical company, and they are convinced that she's an alien. So that's the story that we have. And I think that like the interpretation that Yorgos Lanthimos has gone for works really well for today, because you have this big biomedical company, and again, like Frankenstein, it's about achieving, innovating, creating new products, and having your name known and making so much money from it. And it speaks a lot to late stage capitalism, the way that some people are absolutely making millions and billions through exploitation that is harming and killing others. And you see in this town that it is just like, it feels dead and empty, and there is like a heavy sense of apathy that is just everywhere. And I feel like the soundtrack, the score that goes along with the film, just really heightens that. It's very like, it's big and orchestral and gaudy, and it is oppressive. Like, it has an insistence on being heard, and I feel like that really like dials up the discomfort of the film in such a great way. And yeah, I think the performances are great. I think the story is really like interesting, links well to today's like issues. The last act of the film is absolutely like bananas bonkers, but I think you just have to go with it and like know that Yorgos Lanthimos he's weird, you know, and like it comes through in this, and I actually really enjoyed it. I think a lot of people were kind of disappointed and didn't like it, but I feel like it worked really well. And there's also something of the kind of conspiracy theories that are like taking over the internet now more than ever, because globalization and the fact that we can access any information anywhere. And people are just, it's so easy to believe what you read and hear if it's said in a convincing tone, if it uses a specific language. And, experts are just becoming less important to a lot of people, even though they shouldn't be. Like, they should be respected. They're becoming a lot less revered everywhere. And so I feel like this film also does a really good job of highlighting the drive to want information, but like, where are you getting that information? And these kind of like fringe groups that have these conspiracies and they totally believe them, and they're like, they would stake their life on it. Like, they spend so much time and effort and energy into research and things, improving things. And I feel like that really does mirror the kind of society that we live in today. But with the last act of the film, like, he really flips that on its head in a really interesting way that was very fun. But I will say that when I was watching it, and I was like, as I was saying, I would really love to see the two actors do the different roles, because I feel like it would be something different for them, and that would be like really interesting to witness. I also do wonder why, wait, let me check this, because I'm pretty sure like this is the case. Okay, yeah, I did actually wonder this, and then I had to check. But when I was saying I want to see the roles reversed, I did wonder in the kind of the original source that it was adapted from, Save the Green Planet, I did wonder if it was a woman who was kidnapped and tortured by men in the original one, and it's not. It is the CEO of the company in Save the Green Planet is a man, and it is a man and his assistant, a woman, who kidnap. And I find the switching of that like really interesting, because making a film for like mostly a Western audience, like that, like transposing it and having to change it to be a woman who is kidnapped and tortured, just feels like it's because that's what we are used to seeing on screen. Like, we're so used to seeing women be kidnapped, tortured, raped, killed. We're so used to seeing that in media. And I think it would have been so interesting to see like a man be the one that is at fault, the man be the one that is being questioned, instead of it being a woman. And maybe I'm reading too much into that, and it did stem from me just thinking it would have been great to see the actors do the opposite parts. But I do think there's something in it. There is something that, there is an appetite for seeing women suffer in art and media, and there is an absolute deluge of it coming towards us all the time. Like, we see it constantly. And so I do wonder, like, why the choice to do that? Yeah. But I did enjoy it a lot. I would recommend it. I think you just need to be up for it being a bit of a wild ride, like all of his films. And like, the score is fantastic, and it looks so good. So the look of Frankenstein, like the way that it was filmed, really disappointed me. Bugonia looks stunning. Like, it looks so good. There's so many beautiful shots, and there's like a couple of flashbacks that happen with Jesse Plemons' character. You see his mom, and who's played by Alicia Silverstone, and those images are so haunting. They're filmed in black and white, and they are just like, they're burned in my brain. They are so unnerving and haunting and just eerie. But yeah. Then the third film, which I went to the cinema to see last night, was Die My Love by Lynne Ramsay. And I've been so excited ever since I saw that this was going to be announced as a film, because I read the novel by Ariane Horowitz a few years ago, and I absolutely loved it. It is so dark and so heavy and so upsetting and unnerving. but it is such a good book. I would say with this book and with this film, it is like heavy trigger warning for just like violence, self-harm, and it's just very heavy subject matter, but I think it's a really necessary subject to dive into. So we have a couple. We have a husband and a wife, Grace and Jackson, and they kind of live in the middle of nowhere, and they have a newborn baby Harry. And the film is about postpartum depression. The film is about Jennifer Lawrence's character, Grace, just losing herself to motherhood, and it is shot so beautifully. Like, it is such a gorgeous film. It's one of the most gorgeous things that I've seen in a long time. Like, I felt like my breath was taken away on so many shots. Like, it was just so gorgeous, but it is visceral and raw and upsetting and like deeply affecting. I couldn't sleep last night because I kept thinking about it, and I kept seeing certain things happen over and over again in my head. And it's just a subject matter that I find really important to me personally, and it's something that I seek out and like want to immerse myself in, like art to do with motherhood and being a woman and losing your identity to motherhood and that sort of thing. Like, I'm so interested in it, and I know that that's like a personal thing, being a woman who wants to have children, but I think that if you don't want children, this film is like a really effective ad for contraception. It is overwhelming. It is like, oh my God, the sound design is magnificent. The friend that I went with was like shifting and squirming in the chair beside me because he couldn't handle how overwhelming the sound design is. You hear the creak of every floorboard. You hear all these flies buzzing around. The baby's crying. The husband brings home a dog. The dog is crying and barking, and it all just like builds and builds and builds, and it just has this like constant like oppressive blanket of just noise and overstimulation happening all the time. And another thing that's really effective, which I think was a brilliant choice for this film, is that it's not a chronological timeline. It plays with time in a way that makes it feel very slippery. And you see the now, where Grace and Jackson have their baby, and then you see it goes to before they had their baby, what their life was like before they became parents. And I think that kind of like the liquefying of time really speaks to the loss of self and the bleeding of the days together and the loss of boundaries. And oh my God, it's so good. And I think it really highlights an important issue, postpartum depression, but also if you are a person who wants to be pregnant, who wants to give birth and have a baby, it really makes you think like, wow, I really hope that I am doing that with the right person to co-parent with me and like a good team of people around me. I'm sorry if you can hear that. My upstairs neighbor, their kitchen is just above here, and so I think they have the water running, but hopefully it's not too loud. But yeah, so we have Grace and Jackson, and once they have this baby, Grace is at home with the baby all the time, and Jackson goes off to work, and I think he's away for like days at a time, and he like comes home and he's just happy to like eat and sleep and kind of like go about his life, and he's happy for her to do almost all of the parenting by herself. And again, like Frankenstein, it's like that shirking of responsibility. Like, you have created this being, like you better step up and play a part in nurturing it and looking after it. And it's just so sad to see a woman just lose her grip on things. And it's not necessarily the baby. And I feel like that is the popular kind of depiction or the popular idea or understanding of postpartum depression, is that you don't connect with your baby, you reject the baby, you don't want to see it, you feel like you don't love it. And it can manifest in that way, and it's so heartbreaking. But there is the other side of things where it's just, excuse me, you connect with your baby, you love your baby. It's like your baby is the one good thing, but everything else around is just too much and too hard, and you can't hold on to yourself whilst trying to do it all. And there are like really upsetting acts of violence against herself, and it's just the way that you see it building and building and building, it doesn't make it less shocking when it happens. And you see that she doesn't have support around her. Like, my heart was breaking for her the entire film. But I think the kind of like the popular perception, or like the common perception of this sort of thing, is seen in the film. So they go to, when they have the baby, they go to a friend's house for like a birthday party, and whilst they're there, Jackson suffers like an anxiety attack, a panic attack. Is that something that is worth being sympathetic towards and worth worrying about and worth giving attention to? Like, yes, absolutely. As someone who suffers from panic attacks fairly regularly, like, it is not like a mild thing. Like, that can be a very serious, debilitating, terrifying thing. And you see everybody kind of like crowd around him and like want to make sure he's okay. They're worrying over him. They're trying to calm him down. And then you see the complete inverse when Grace's character is like really struggling and acting out and doing all these things that seem so like weird and disruptive to everyone around her, but it's obviously the deterioration of her mental health. And people just seem annoyed at this woman for not just getting it together and like being a mother. Like, why can't you just do what everybody else has done before you? And I found it such a powerful film. Like, I know I'll be thinking about it for a long time. And out of the 3 recent films that I saw, like, that's definitely my favorite. And it's just so gorgeously done as well. There's like really beautiful landscapes, really gorgeous cinematography. The songs, like the soundtrack, so great. And like the acting performances, phenomenal, especially Jennifer Lawrence, like incredible. And to know that she was pregnant whilst filming that film just blows my mind. Okay, I just like walked away from filming and then remembered that I really wanted to recommend a documentary. So I think, speaking about Die My Love and postpartum depression, I think it would be very remiss of me to not mention the documentary by Elizabeth Sankey from last year, 2024, called Witches, which is a really powerful look at postpartum psychosis. And she uses the lens of the depiction of like witches in cinema to look at how women have been cast as hysterical. And it's just a really moving documentary about a really incredibly important subject that I feel like doesn't get enough attention or care, and it's an incredibly dangerous and terrifying thing. So I think that it's like really beautiful that she's made this documentary where she speaks about her own experience and people that she has met, like while she has been like going through treatment, and their experiences. And yeah, I think it's just a brilliant documentary, like on top of it being like a really important subject, and she's like really bringing it to light in like really, I keep saying really, but she has really powerful conversations with the people that she's interviewing, and it's very powerful when she speaks about her own experience. It's also just a beautiful documentary. Like, it's really well made, it's really beautiful, and it would be highly remiss of me not to mention that in relation to Die My Love. So if you're looking for a documentary to watch, I would highly recommend Witches by Elizabeth Sankey. Okay, but yeah, so they're the recent films that I've seen. I know that they're kind of like the big releases at the moment around here anyway, so let me know if you've seen them, or if you're like, whatever else you've been watching lately, I would love to know. I would love to talk more about film on here and with you in the comments as well, because I love film. And I know I've had a couple of requests of people asking me to talk about it, and I feel like there's so many people out there who do such a good job of it that it makes me really like quite anxious to do it. But I don't know, I like these kind of like casual chit chats that we have. You know, this isn't me doing extensive research and like providing you with my thesis on anything that I read or watch. It's just me chatting to my internet friends about things that I've been engaging with lately. So yeah, if you have made it this far, thank you so much. And I would love to hear what you've been watching lately, and hopefully I'll see you soon.